And welcome to Front Row, the podcast. We're very excited to have you here. But before we get going, please remember to like, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review if you got value from this week's episode. We can't wait to share with you all the industry peers, all the industry experts, all around professional speaking. And we are super excited to welcome you to this week's episodes. Get your notepad ready, get your action steps lined up, and let's tune in to this week's episode. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the A&S Front Row podcast. I'm really excited about today, and I'll tell you why, because I've got Charlott in the studio, and Charlott has been one of our biggest supporters and judges for the Speaker Awards, which is, by the way, if you're watching this live on repeat, the Speaker Awards 2026 is now closed. That's it. You can't enter. We've done the shortlisting. We've got the big reveal in 3 weeks. But you can potentially enter in 2027. So make sure you go to the Speaker Awards and put your name down. But I'm super excited to do this because Charlott has been with us and she has supported us. And I love picking the minds and the brains of our judges to find out, what does good look like? What does excellent look like? What does terrible look like? So I'm excited because apparently this year, 2026, the caliber of speakers has been very high. The competition, fierce. You know, it's a bit like, Arsenal, Man City. Are they not? And then, Arsenal peaked them. Yay. But we're not talking about football. It's not about that. It's about professional speaking. For those of you who do or do not know me, my name is Elliot Kay, and I am the CEO and the visionary and founder behind the Speaker Awards and the Speaker Summit. And I am the one that day in, day out builds amazing relationships with people like Charlott. I also get out there and talk to sponsors. And of course, I deal with our amazing community, which we'll be looking to support further soon because we will be launching a community platform. Yay! And I'm super excited about that too. So let's have a quick convo. Charlott, welcome back. This is year 3 for you?
Year 3 for me, yes. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And you've just come back from a little trip, going for a short walk to Machu Picchu and back. Is that right?
Yes, it was fabulous, but harder than expected.
Well, that's always good, isn't it? If it's too easy, and then it doesn't quite land, So tell us, year 3, number 1, why did you get involved in the first place? What brought you to the Speaker Awards? Why? Surely I know you're a busy lady.
I used to work with, I think it started back, 4 years ago when I first had a one-to-one with yourself. And it was the first year, I think, of the Speaker Awards that year. And I thought it was amazing what you were doing. And then we started working a little bit together. And it was a great way for me because I worked with a lot of want-to-be speakers. And want-to-be speakers and becoming a speaker, there's a big gap. And I could feel that gap with sort of recommending them to yourself and what you were doing at the time. And that's kind of where it started. And I just love community. I love collaboration. I think people collaborating with each other within the speaking world is very difficult. I've seen a lot of clickiness within other sort of communities and things, and you've got to have the right people to get away from that. If you imagine you have 200 speakers in the room who all want to be a peacock, it's going to be a little bit of I am better, and it's going to be competition and all that kind of stuff. But I don't believe in that, and I know you don't either. And together with the other founders and the ambassadors that you have, I know that you are all about community and collaboration, and that's really why I wanted to get involved.
That's brilliant. Yeah, because we started off at the time, you had a membership platform, didn't you? And then that's kind of how we got to know each other. And then I did a couple of trainings, and then was it the first year? So we launched in 2022. Was that the first year? You
4 years, but I've been part of the judging for 3 years.
For 3 years, that's right. So yeah, God, year 5 for us. It's kind of amazing to think we've hit year 5 now. And, to think that so many things could have gone wrong and did.
I just think it's incredible. And if you haven't been, I could not recommend it higher enough. It's just an amazing day, first of all, where you have so much knowledge from people that really know the industry. Yeah. So if you want to become a speaker, if you are a professional speaker, it doesn't matter. You can gain so much value from that day. And then, of course, the awards then happens as well, but which is amazing. And, it's the recognition of really good work, and which is important. But there is just that feel of amazing community.
Yeah, I agree. And it's interesting because the community has grown. And when I set this out, actually, my intention was not to build a community. I mean, it wasn't not to build a community, but it wasn't like I'm going to build a community. It was like I'm going to put an award on and I'm going to put a summit on and we'll take it from there. But it has become a real community. It's become a global platform, like people flying in from all over, applying from as far as Papua New Guinea. We had someone apply from Papua New Guinea. I couldn't believe it. And a lot of it's thanks to you, the judges being part of the community, the ambassadors, of course, all the people that are involved, a big part of it. So you decided to get involved, and this is year 3. And so tell us, being one of the experienced speakers, judges, what do you see, like, over the years? What have you seen grow and shift and change that, could some insights into that over the
You know what I
years?
really loved, because I did a podcast with Lovelda last year after the event, and we sort of shared what people should look out for. And there were a few sort of up and coming in last year's round, and that we spoke to at the summit, spoke to at the awards. And this year, the caliber was so high, the points between each sort of shortlisted speaker was very, very small. But what I loved to see was that they'd taken on board what we said, and some of the speakers I saw had literally done everything they possibly could to then go forward and win the competition or be shortlisted or, be one of the highly commended. So that's been amazing to see, that actually people take on board what we're looking for, and putting yourself in the shoes of a judge. I had 74 people to judge, which is a lot, and it does take a lot of time. This year, yes.
74 people. That
74
was
people.
The newcomer category, right?
Nope. So I was storyteller and leadership.
Wow.
And leadership was a new category, and really, really interesting speakers came from that. And it's a different way of speaking when you're doing something like leadership speaking, isn't it? So it was a different way of judging as well. But we had a lot of fun, and we have, done our results. But I think for me, seeing year on year end is how the speakers that come forward are really taking on board this a higher level. And we can see that as judges, definitely.
Yeah, you see, what's become very apparent to me this year is actually people going out and filming for the awards. And again, that blows my mind. Like, a few people literally went and filmed their videos for entries, not because they were doing a talk, like getting studios and really putting into it. So that's blown my mind. I think that's incredible. So you've seen speakers progress, and you've seen them kind of take on board and, elevate their own speaking, which is, of course, one of our mottos, elevating speakers. Well, the summit is anyway. And what have you, besides the speakers that you feel that have come on board, what have you seen in the speaking industry, for example? What are you noticing more of coming through from being a judge and seeing 74 videos, and that's just this year. So literally, you've watched hundreds of speaker videos over the years.
Yes, and I think what I've seen the most that people really want is authenticity. We got AI. Obviously, there's so many different platforms that people can use to, for content, for research, whatever they use it for. But the people that are really coming in with something unique, a story, we all have a story. Everyone can tell a story. It's how you tell that story and how you connect with the audience. And I always think, for me, it's about leaving the audience, whoever you're talking to, whether it's, at a conference for HR leaders, 300 people, 5,000 people. You want every single one in that audience to be able to take a little golden nugget away from what you're leaving with them after these sort of lights have gone down and you've gone home and all of that sort of thing, because that's important and you need that. But to actually leave the audience with a golden nugget and be able to connect to each and every one of them, that's a real skill. And I've seen that with the people that have won previous years, and I've seen it in some of the videos. And I think that is important, because you mentioned about the videos being, people are actually filming for content for, entering the awards. And when I first joined, perhaps they didn't do that, and they've taken that on board. They're taking it seriously, because so many people come to me and they say, oh, I want to be a speaker. The first thing I'm going to ask them, have you got video content of you speaking? Have you got a show reel? If you haven't, unfortunately, it's not going to be very possible to put you forward to any bureau or anyone, because we need to see you speak. And also being visible online. So many speakers shy away from that. Why? You're good at your job. Show up, be visible. That is one of the things that I really sort of, it surprises me sometimes. But it's one of the things, because again, it can be daunting because you're being judged, aren't you? But you've got to get out there for people to see what you are about and how you deliver your message. That's the most important thing for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Authenticity has come through from a lot of the judges I interviewed on the Judges series, which this is a part of. A lot of them talked about Ricky, Sarah, Dee. Everyone talks about the authenticity, being real, not to come across as, generic, or even trying or sounding like other speakers, to truly be yourself. So authenticity is clearly a big thing. And I just wonder how much, because of the rise of AI and the potential, of videos to be AI, or even of you, like you can AI your own self. I wonder if then part of the side steps, or the side result of the demand for authenticity, is because of that. I mean, I know that's not within every. Would you think that that's a big part of it?
Absolutely, because I think I see speakers putting out images where they have, put themselves speaking somewhere in a picture with an audience that you can clearly see that the audience is developed by AI, and they just put themselves in there at the sideline with a microphone. That is not really what we want to see. I'm sorry to say if you're putting that out there, but it just looks fake, and we can't see you. We don't know who you are, and we need to see who you are, what message you want to give us, because that is really, really important. And I think that's what makes a great speaker. If you have a message that you are clear about what you want to achieve and how you want to sort of deliver it, and how you want the audience to feel when you come off stage. It's not about you when you're speaking, unfortunately. A lot of speakers, when they start, they're so excited because they want to get their message out, and it's all about them, and it's me on stage, and and that's great. Of course, you've got to have the personality, you've got to have all that, but it's about the audience. It's about them. You need to give them something that they can take away, and
Absolutely.
That's when the speakers kind of get that really clicks, and you'll go so far when you get to that level.
Absolutely. And I think it's the other, you mentioned some of these aspects, but it's also understanding the element of the business element of speaking. Like you said, a lot of speakers are like, oh, I want to speak. Well, have you got any footage? Have you got any this? And no. Well, I think a lot of people still think you can just step on stage and speak. And I think there's a lot behind it that simply well, you and I know that's not true. And I think, enough kudos goes for people who are willing to enter the process, because you have to get really clear on who you are as a speaker. So a lot of people talk about the process alone of going through the application process, helping them. But then, of course, you're going in front of people who are industry peers, industry leaders like yourself, like some of the bureaus we've got on board, some of the bookers and the agents, and people who've been in the industry for a long time, right? And then they have to watch your stuff and give you a score, and then are you shortlisted? And I get the emotional investment that people going through the process put themselves through. So I've got to acknowledge that. And it's still a competition. As much as we are about collaboration community, it's still a competition. And I think, it takes a certain person to do that, and want to do that. You've got to be brave and back yourself, which is what we talk about. Even if you're established, because we have very established speakers. I mean, this year we had a rock star enter, which is pretty cool, right? But just on that caveat is they were judged as a speaker, not a rock star, right? And that's what's really important to us. So over the years, Charlotte, what are some of the no-nos you've seen? And you're like, oh, no, you didn't. Oh, no, you didn't do that, did you? Like, what are some of the ones that stick in mind for you?
Well, one of the recent ones was they had an interview while so they submitted an interview entry. And, you know, I'm sorry, but I can't judge you when you're being asked question for an interview and not actually looking into the camera. So that was one of them. I've also had a couple of years ago, another one that stands out was somebody who was speaking about their business. So it was all about their business and how they couldn't, this was actually the first year I was judging, so it just shows how far it's come. And she was saying about the fact that she couldn't really put in an entry around her subject because she was so could diversify, she could be bespoke to any company. So she was basically saying that she could do anything, but she didn't give us anything to judge on. So those are just two examples. And the third one that I think so many people don't take the time, this year more have, like we said about video content, but video content is so important. And the cutting, so if you're not entering the show reel entry, we don't necessarily need a show reel. It doesn't need to be, but it needs to give the kind of what you're going in for. What is your message? You need to capture us so we are interesting. If you think about that, we're sitting watching 74 videos over a few days, or and then go back to them, and so it's a long process, and you just want to be able to be captured, so you actually want to go onto their YouTube and watch other stuff. That's what we want. We want to engage with you and think, wow, this is really good. And then a lot of people, when they do that entry, they miss out the punchline because they're cutting the video content that they have. Always try and include that punchline that you're leaving your audience with. So cut it so you have all those three elements. You have the wow factor, your subject, you're getting us captured, and then leaving us with something to remember. That is an amazing entry. If you can capture all those three, I think you absolutely nailed it.
Right. And what's like some entries that really stood out for you on the other side? Like you're like, wow, this is amazing.
The people that have done just that, and it's a very special person who I was so pleased to see again in the entries this year, who I spoke to last year, and she captured everything, absolutely nailed it. And it's lovely when you can see somebody and they take it on board feedback and they come back and they're strong and they're ready. And that is amazing to see. And I think that is part of what the competition do. If you're really serious about it and you really want to do something, you said it is a competition, but it is a beautiful competition in the way that it's set up. And also how we judge, because I think that's important to say, that I had to recluse myself from somebody who's a friend, and those sort of things happen. So we really judge you on the video that you put in as an entry. And that's important to say, because we're not going to research everyone. It's just not enough time to do that. So your entry that you're entering into the competition is really, really important. So take the time to do it and go through the process, like you said. And yes, it might be scary, but I think you also grow as a speaker by doing it. I really do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's, again, a kind of very interesting feedback we've got is how much the process alone has been worthwhile. And then, anything on top of that. Again, it's still gutting when people don't win. So that person that you talked about, have they been shortlisted this year?
They have been shortlisted, and I'm not going to say any more.
Okay. What if I send you chocolates?
No, I'm not going to say any more. You'll have to find out and come and join us.
What if I send you... Well, I'm going to find out. I'm going to find out because I'm there.
You're going to find out. You're going to find out. But everybody else will find out too. And the person who I'm speaking about, if they're watching this, they're going to know as well.
Okay, so that's fine. There's nothing... Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's all good. So no chocolate for you, Charlotte. What can I say?
No chocolate.
Yeah. But apparently our ambassador likes Ferrero Rocher. So, if you want to...
I know. We need a lot of them.
Yes, we do. What was I going to say to you? So, no, that's good. It's good to hear. And, part of our vision is to help standardize the industry and have a stamp point, right? And I feel like we're getting there. I feel fine. It's taken 5 years. I'm going to give this another 5 years and then we'll take it from there, But I think it's really nice that, all these processes help standardize. They help obviously it's about the speakers, right? If we can help, the way you create a standard is you create something to aspire to, right? And then you kind of uplift. And we're seeing that now, which is really nice to see. I mean, we saw it, I think we started to see it. And I think this year, really, even you look at the caliber of speakers we're attracting beyond rock stars, you know, MBEs, Olympians, like people who are established. It's no longer aspiring speakers. I think when we started out, it was lots of aspiring speakers. And then gradually it's grown. Of course, Maria Franzoni has been a massive part of that. As of you, as judges as well, you've helped kind of like lift up, and I'm hitting my own table here, you know, and things like that. I can't help it. My hands are going in that respect. So before we change angles slightly, what excites you about, let's say, the next couple of years with the speaking industry from what you're seeing? What's exciting for you?
I think it's exciting because being part of the Speaker Awards and the Summit has kind of, I think people are really looking and taking it seriously. It's no longer just going up on stage and telling your story. It is a profession that is being much more recognized than 5 years ago, I think, or, you know, if you take 10 years ago, definitely. And, you know, you treat it as a business, and that's what you're paying for as well. So if you're booking a speaker, for people who are watching this who might be thinking about booking somebody, you're also paying for their knowledge. You know, they have a background perhaps in another industry, and that's their message. And that's what they're going out to speak to other HR leaders or whoever it may be, what industry, you know, they might be speaking to. But you're not just paying for an hour on stage. You're paying for all the preparation, their expertise. It's like the music industry, you know, you don't get a hit song straight away. That takes a lot of preparation, a lot of, you know, things going on behind the scenes that we don't see. And it's the same within the speaking industry. And I think that's being recognized, and I think people are willing to pay for it. And I think that is a massive step forward. And I think by having the Speaker Awards as well and the Summit, that's where you can really meet other people within the same industry and learn so much from each other. And I've seen that happening during the day when we do the summit. You know, people are really excited about meeting up again. I'm in contact with people on LinkedIn from the other side of the world going, oh my gosh, it's going to be so lovely to see you again. And that is amazing. And that's where you can really learn from other speakers, collaborate with other speakers, taking it as a profession, a collaboration rather than just a competition. We have the competition in the evening. You have submitted your entries to that, and that's important too. But learning from other speakers and growing together and making speaking a really professional and collaborative industry, I think that is what I would like to see more of, and it's already happening, so that's great news.
Yeah, me too, and that is exciting, and it's really nice to witness, even if it, you know, from afar, because part of what you want is a community to almost start to become self-sufficient versus, you know, I've never been interested in following or you know, a dependency, which I know some people love, and they need the adoration and they need that. What do we do now? And like, nope, you know, it's like, you know, you teach them to fish, right? Versus give them fish, if you know what I mean. So it's really nice to see that happening, and it's almost taking its own form and independence in a way. Excuse me. So that's really cool, and I'm glad. And you know, you're right. I hope we can encourage more collaboration when it comes to this industry. I just realised I didn't turn my light on. That's very, very bad.
But look at all the pop stars, you know, Madonna with Sabrina, and, you know, that's happening in that world. Why can't it happen in the speaking world?
Absolutely. No, I completely agree. And that is exciting. So onwards and upwards, as some would say. And outside of the judging, what do you do when you're not judging the Speaker Awards?
So I tell people, well, first of all, I do connect people a lot. I don't have a platform anymore, and I do not have sort of a networking group anymore, but it's part of my absolute passion. And a lot of people call me Tinder for business, because I tend to kind of just, I don't know, when I meet somebody, I kind of like to get to know them. I'm all about the people. I love people. And then I go, you know what, I really think you need to speak to so-and-so. And that could be somebody in, you know, in Australia. If I think they got something in common, I like to put people in touch. And I also run a business called Eat Your Frog Office Solutions. And basically, I like to eat your frog. If people are not familiar, there's a book called Eat That Frog, and it's all about taking your tasks that you really don't like to do. So say you hate doing admin, for example, you can outsource that to somebody else. And basically, it's about doing that frog in the morning so you've eaten your frog and you can carry on with the day and not have to worry about the frog anymore. So I like to eat people's frogs and help them and support them with the things they don't like to do. So for speaking, for example, that could be the negotiation, because I know that sometimes when you take the negotiation away from yourself because you are the speaker, it's much, much easier to negotiate. And I love negotiating deals. And putting the right people forward for the job, what you're looking for as well.
Cool. So Eat Your Frog, that's the book by Brian Tracy, right?
Yeah, I love that.
So just to be clear, you do the tasks that people don't like. You don't run a restaurant where people come and eat frogs. Just to be clear.
No,
okay.
I did have a restaurant, and we did have a soup with frog legs in it at one point.
Really?
Crispy frog legs. Yes, and that was in London, and I think back in the late 90s, and it was popular too. And I thought, right, the first thing we need to do is program the till no frog legs. I think we sold one soup with frog legs in it. The rest of them was no frog legs. So guess what we had for lunch? We had crispy frog legs, and they were pretty good actually. Not too bad.
Right. I never knew you ran a restaurant. How long did you run a restaurant for?
Years and years. So I had a restaurant in London, and then I moved. That's the reason why I moved to Wales, actually, to open a gastropub. So yeah, so that was my industry for many, many years.
So you moved to Wales to open a gastro. Did you open a gastropub?
Yeah. I did for 6 years. And yeah, we didn't have frog legs on the menu. I just don't think Wales was ready for that.
Oh, right. And then after the gastropub, what happened then? Tell us, as we seem to be diving into your background now.
Yeah, so I moved to France for a little bit and kind of ran a free Airbnb for friends and family whilst doing a big project out there. So you came back, and then I was on to a hotel, so hospitality again. And then I went into the music industry, and after that I was working for an online auction house for fine stringed instruments, traveling all over the world, which I absolutely love because I am a complete globetrotter. It's what I did in my youth, and to be able to go back and do that sort of late 30s, early 40s was amazing. But it also is not, as you know, you travel a lot yourself, and it's not all glamorous when you have your suitcase packed and you're traveling in the middle of the night somewhere. But it's good to experience it, and I'm very grateful that I did experience that again.
Yeah, you're right. It's not all glamour. And actually, at the end of the day, a hotel room's a hotel room, and a train's a train, or a plane's a plane. And yeah, sure, it's exciting, but there's always the before and the after, right? So then
Yeah, and those are all the things that I actually love doing for people. So those are the things that a lot of speakers find hard to, get the calendar right, book the flights, get yourself in the place at the right time and all that kind of thing. And I love that. I've done a lot of that with other industries as well, and I absolutely thrive on that.
Very good. So are you busy these days?
Yes, I am. I also work for a lady and run sort of different people's sort of business development and stuff. So that's the other part of what I do. So it keeps me busy, and I'm just grateful to be able to do challenges and things like that. Like I said, I've just come back from Machu Picchu, which was a massive challenge. And those are the things I'd like to talk about as well, is, we all have a mountain inside us that we might want to climb, whether that's putting your entry into the Speaker Awards or whatever it might be, you can do it. You just need to take the first step to do it. And I think that's important to realize, because it's not easy sometimes to take that first step, whatever that mountain might be for yourself.
Yeah, it's interesting because I had a meeting today with someone called Adam Clayton, and he runs a event called Apex, and it's all about conquering your Everest within. And it's quite interesting. So it's funny that it's just so strange that you came up with that metaphor, right? Because that was in my sphere. And actually, the way he constructs it is he does all these events, and whatever level you get to, it represents a mountain. So even if you don't make it to the top, if you just made it this far, that's Kilimanjaro. If you make it that far, it's this. And each level has a representation. And I think it's quite clever because whatever happens, he's setting you up to succeed. Like, I used to do loads of half marathons. And when you've had a bad half marathon, you feel terrible, like you just feel underachieved. Or if you've had to pull out, but if you just reach a certain point, you're like, yes, I've succeeded at something. So I think it's quite clever. And you're right, everyone has a little mountain within they need to conquer. So Machu Picchu, did you enjoy that? Did you have fun?
I absolutely loved it. It's always been something I wanted to do. I didn't expect it to be as hard as it was because I have done Everest Base Camps, I've done Kilimanjaro, and amongst all of them, people have said what was the hardest. Kili was definitely the hardest. Everest for me, even if I suffered with altitude, was the easiest. Machu Picchu was in between, and I didn't quite expect that. But what I do say about all of those things is the amount of amazing people you meet. And it's not just about, this one step in front of the other, but it's the community again that you have. You are putting your hands into other people that you've never met before. They are.
That sounds dodgy.
Without the Sherpas, what would you do? Without the guides, you would be lost, wouldn't you? Imagine us, up in the mountain somewhere when a snake comes past. What do? You don't know their lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had an amazing guide in the jungle as well, and he lived with the tribes for 3 years. And what he was saying about how they live compared to how we live, it makes you just be so grateful for what you have. The little children go out and have snacks that are insects, and they know which ones to eat and not to eat. Isn't that incredible? And they were feeding him snake because that was similar to chicken because he got so ill when he came to the tribes because obviously he wasn't used to their food. And just little things like that just makes you, when you come back from something like that, it's about the learnings of the different cultures and what you take with you, and you become so incredibly grateful for what we have and what you do. My nan always used to say, borta bra men hemma bäst, which is a Swedish saying. And it means that away is good, but home is always the best. And I love that. I love coming home just as much as I love being out and about and meeting people.
Yeah, I love coming home these days far more. I mean, I do love meeting people. I love getting out there. But even when I go out there and speak, I normally tend to turn around that night or the next morning. And, the other week I was speaking at Edinburgh. 8 hours on the train there. Got there in the evening, did the talk, back on the train first thing in the morning for 8 hours. And even my wife was like, why don't you just go and see Edinburgh? Why don't you go see? I'm like, I don't want to. I've done Dubai for a couple of years. And first year I went to see lots of things. But second year I was just like, as soon as I did the gig, the next day I was out. But, because I think these days I just enjoy coming home. I've got, a couple of young kids. So they're not going to be young for long. So while I'm still their, mini hero and they still want cuddles, I want to be here to give it to them, right?
Absolutely.
But I get that. I completely get what you're saying. Home is best in that respect as well. So speaking of my kids, I don't know about you, but in our household, our kitchen table is the hub of everything. It's where art happens. It's where Top Trumps happened. It's where my son takes all his Star Wars figures. It's where Emily and I talk about the future, our vision for the future. It's where we talk finances. And as much as I've tried to get my kids off the kitchen table with their art and things, it always ends up on the kitchen table. So I always ask all these guests, what's on your kitchen table? What's your future? What's your vision for yourself?
Well, on my kitchen table, there's always flowers because I love flowers. And I think I've taken a lot from my nan because she always had an open house. So I love when people just knock on the door, and I'm very grateful because I live with great neighbours, and we do that a lot. Just pop in and you have a cuppa, or you sit outside in the sun and see the sunset over the mountain, which I love. And it's little things like that gives me joy. For the future, I'm in a bit of a changing process at the moment in terms of what I do, and I looking forward to travel more.
Hmm.
I love the industry of traveling, and that's kind of where I can see myself going.
Okay.
I'm also very excited with some of the clients I'm working with because they're growing, and being part of their journey, seeing the changes in the business over the last couple of years and what they want to give back as well. I think that is really exciting because very different industries that I work with. So one of them is a hypnotherapist, the other one has an accountancy firm, and it's different ways of growing, but it all comes down again to the first step of taking that step of wanting to grow and having an established team around you to be able to grow as well. And I love seeing that part of the journey, and I want to continue that journey. So I love seeing people succeed and thrive, and seeing that within my own business or within the clients that I work with. That's what gives me joy and makes me want to continue to get people connected and get people to see where they can take the next steps and how they can grow.
Cool. So growth in the horizon for you as well then?
Absolutely, yes, definitely. And I got lots of exciting trips this year. So yeah, and obviously London in about a month.
Are you allowed to share where you're going? Or is it secret?
So I'm going back to Sweden for a few things this year, and I'm actually seeing friends that we were in school with, so I haven't seen some of them for 26 years. Going back to celebrate my dad's 80th birthday in 2 months.
Wow.
There's lots of little things coming up on the horizon, and I've not been back to Sweden very much lately, so yeah, we'll see what that's going to go.
26 years, so that would make you 36?
Yes, of course. I love you, Elliot.
Love that. Cool. So travel, growth, expansion. Do you ever put the hypnotherapy in touch with the accountant? And so the hypnotherapy?
Yes, definitely. And yeah, they use each other, which is great.
There we go. Perfect.
Yeah.
Love that. See, collaboration, bringing them together.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely love that. So what it's quite interesting because it sounds like you're quite crossroads and you're kind of an exploratory part of you, like re-identifying yourself or refinding yourself. Even though you're quite confident in who you are, it sounds like you're going, what's my next? What's my next? Who am I next? It sounds like there's a bit of that.
I think you do. And I think that's important for your own personal development. You know, I love working within business development, but if I'm going to do a good job, I need to be able to see how I can grow as well and what's new and, you know, new software, what's exciting, what's happening and staying on top of things like that. Just like you do in the speaking world, you know, you need to grow with the time because speaking changes all the time. So you can't just do your usual that you've been doing for 10 years. You've got to change and you've got to look for changes within your message and how people take that message because that is important as well. People change, you know, not just with age and things like that, but also within everything that's going on around them. We get fed so much information and it's easy to find information. So you need to stay on top of your personal development, I think is really, really important.
I agree with you. And just out of interest, I ask this to everybody I do this podcast with. What are we not talking about that we should be talking?
Gosh, that's a clever one.
Thanks. Not just a pretty face. You know.
I think we should be talking about the learnings. We don't always succeed. Life is not just a huge, big success, is it? You know, there's lots of steps to get there. And then, like I said, that mountain, it all requires the first step. So talk about it. I call them learnings. Some people might call them failures. I don't like to use the word failure. But, you know, those learnings that we have when things perhaps didn't go as you thought they were going, the feedback that you get, maybe share that with someone that you trust. And I know for people who've been to the summit, they have got that buddy and they share things between them when things go right, when things perhaps are not so good, and they, you know, find somebody that you can trust within your industry, whatever that industry is, that you can share those things with. the accountant, there's another accountant in the same building, so they share things. Making tax digital has been a massive thing, and people going, oh my gosh, what do I do? And they've shared, how can we make this easier? Just talk to each other. It's not all about the competition in life, and don't be scared of talking about your learnings. I think it's recognize them and then move forward and take that step to doing something better the next time.
Yeah, I mean, why do you think we don't discuss that?
Because I think people are scared of failure. They don't want to be seen as a failure. And, it's very easy for me to sit here and say, just take it as a learning. But of course, I had something happening yesterday that kind of put me on my toes a little bit. And I thought, gosh, I really feel like I should have done this, or perhaps gone down that route instead. And for a moment, I just thought, oh my gosh, I feel like I really failed. And I thought, no, you know what? This feels right. This feels like the right thing to do. And we came away from the day after having sort of wobbles in the morning to a plan, and then walking. Actually, when I got home last night, I thought, you know what, that was the right thing to do, and we have a plan, and we're moving forward with the plan, and that felt good. So that was literally all those steps I just said, I guess, in one day, recognizing that it wasn't happening, learning from it, getting a plan together, and then moving forward with the plan. And I came home and I felt good.
Yeah, and I think that's good where you have that. I think there's different angles to what you're saying. I think also that if you're a speaker or you're a business, you're not going to market your failures. So you're not going to look at me, work with me, look how much I failed, right? I think that's a big part of it. I think obviously people buy results, they buy the dream, they buy, what they want, even if they need it. And I think part of the fear, maybe, and I'm interested in your opinion, of not sharing such thing is because of the potential downside to sharing failures, to discussing failures. I agree with you, by the way. But do you think that that's a big factor, especially the whole notion that I'm a business? Like, can you imagine your accountant broadcasting what they got wrong?
I think it's different ways of doing it. So you're maybe not broadcasting what you did wrong, but you can maybe, share something that's happened to a client, or, move forward with that. But also, that's where you really need your network. So having somebody in your network that you feel like you can utterly trust. So whether that is like myself, for example, being the business development person within their business, and they can go, you know what, that didn't work so well. How can we change that? And I think because that is confidential and that it's not going to go any further. And I think every business needs somebody like that, whether there's somebody that they work with, whether it's a friend, whether it's someone within their network that they can totally trust. And I'm not saying, for example, family here, because family sometimes don't really understand what you do. And when things go wrong, or you're sharing it with your partner, or they go, oh, well, don't you think it's time to maybe do something else? Or they're saying things because they want to protect you, and they want to kind of make you feel good about yourself again. But they might not be understanding exactly why you do what you do and what you do in your industry. And that's where your network really matters. And I always think that if you're starting out in business, start out with building that network around you that you feel safe in, that you can collaborate with, that you can talk to when things perhaps not going so smoothly.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm very open about especially my new book that's coming out next month, a lot about my failures. Actually, I talk quite openly, with my Watch Me Go, which is the title of the book. I think you have to get to a point where you're healed to be able to discuss your failures or your challenges or your feedbacks, whatever framing you want to give it, depending on the world you're from. And I think that, I guess this is the question, do you think people give enough time to heal Or do you think
No,
people...
possibly not. And I have not always been where I am today. It's taken many, many years to get to that because I could never, when I was younger, it was if I failed at something, I was a total failure and I would never share it with anyone. But part of healing is the process of sharing. And I think instead I bottled it up and I thought I couldn't speak to anyone. And I do talk about that as well. You can't, eventually, if you just bottle things up, you're going to burn. And that's when you really crash. And, if you crash that far, then it's really hard to get up. And I think that's why I learned along the way that, you know what, it is important, but to talk to the right people that that they can understand you and you can trust as well. So building that trust with just a handful of people or one person, that is amazing when you find that. And that takes a long time, I think, especially within business, because there's a lot of things that you can't, you don't want to share publicly, but to be able to heal, feel like you need to share it with someone. It might be even a person that you don't know so well. It might be a therapist of some sort, there might be your hypnotherapist, your reflexologist, whatever it might be. You don't know, but... Hairdresser, yeah. Gosh, can you imagine the stories they have?
Yeah.
But sharing, I think, I've learned it the hard way, and I'm sure you have as well. And I think it's important of the healing process to share the learnings that we have.
When did you know that you can't carry on the way you were going?
Gosh, I learned that I literally crashed completely, and that was in 2018. And I had been traveling all over the world, living sort of, working within the corporate sector. It was a very busy time. We managed to get the company to become one of the third in the industry, the best in literally 1.5 years. So it was a tough challenge, but it was exciting too. But along that, there was a lot of learnings, and a relationship of 25 years broke down, and I felt lost. And I didn't really speak to anyone about the fact that the relationship was breaking down. I didn't even tell my friends. And what I started doing instead was hiding and, making excuses of not coming out, telling people that I was busy when I wasn't. And yeah, went into hiding until I absolutely, utterly crashed. And that's where my learnings of how important it is to look after yourself and sharing things when things don't go right is so, so important, because otherwise you will utterly burn out at some point. And I know burnout and being burnt and things, it's a very kind of popular word at the moment, but being burnt out and being sort of feeling stressed is a completely different word to completely crash and burn out. And I think a lot of people talk about it now, but in those days, 10, 15 years ago, people didn't talk about it, and you were a failure if you burnt out. It was almost, I think that's amazing that has come to a point when we actually can share things like that. And I'm very proud of sharing about that, because I think it helps people understand that, if you share, you can grow, you can then heal, and you can get back to finding yourself again and finding new ways of dealing with things rather than just bottling it up.
Yeah, I think also there are industries, or there are people that wear like burnout a bit of a badge. Like, I think there's this notion of, the hustle and keep hustling and push and don't sleep or no sleep or little sleep. And I think, I don't know if that's just because we're getting older and therefore we're seeing a different shift in that, or there's a general shift away from that way. Doesn't mean you don't work hard, doesn't mean you don't have a high standards, but it also means you look after yourself. But I do see still a lot of people really like pushing themselves to such extremes that they do burn out. And it's a bit of a badge. Like, oh, look, I burn out. Look at me. It's like, that can't be.
I think when I was sort of, coming and working in the careers I did, it was very much work hard, play hard, like you said.
Yeah.
If you had 3 hours sleep, it was like, oh, I had 3 hours sleep, you know, it's really cool. And it was the way it was. And I think that's why we've now seen so many people sort of, you know, later on in the late 40s, 50s, they burnt out because they lived that life for so long. And I tell you what, I really value my sleep now, and I realize how important sleep is for healing. And when your body tells you you need to sleep, you need to sleep, you need to heal. I never, if you'd asked me that when I was 18, 19, I probably would have laughed, because I just didn't understand that was, you know, it was play hard, work hard. And you did, you know, if you told people, which I did, I used to work 90 hours a week sometimes. And when you told people, it was like, oh yeah, I did 100 hours last week. I did, you know, like you said, it's not about that industry particularly was also very, you know, long hours and things in hospitality. But even in the city, I worked in the city in London for a little while, and you know, that the whole thing there was no sleep. You just go to work, you go out for lunch, you drink, you go back, and you know, and it was just crazy. But I do see, like you said, I do think it's shifting within the younger generation, and they don't put up with as much. And I've heard my friends sort of, you know, they sort of in their 20s now, and they're going, oh, I handed in my notice because I didn't like what they were telling me. And I'm thinking, gosh, I would never have done that. I would have just proved a point and, you know, worked my hardest to sort of prove something that you could never prove probably. But the younger generation kind of go, no, what? I don't accept this. I'm going to move on. And I think that's amazing. Sometimes it's being taken a step too far the other way, so we need to find a happy medium somewhere, but at least it's being spoken about, and we're talking about it now, so that just proves that I think there's a lot of changes happening.
I hope so. I hope so. So what would your message to be someone that's listening to this might be going through a rough patch?
I would be to share it with someone, to find somebody that you can trust. Like I said, whether it's a friend, whether it's someone in your network, whether it's another person within your industry, or somebody, you know, maybe find a therapy that you like, you know, maybe a massage therapist, hairdressers, like you said, you know, whoever it might be that you feel like you can go, you know what, I need to share this with someone because I feel like it's burning me up inside, and I want to talk to someone about it.
Sounds great. Yeah, I might book myself into massage after that. I certainly do it. not to talk to her, but because, you know, I feel like my body needs it. I've been working very hard in the gym, you know, when I look good for the speaker summit. So I feel like, you know, so I look good figure. Look at this.
I've done gardening, Elliot, and I could feel it in every single muscle after last Sunday. Gardening is best exercise ever.
I know, I did some actually. My wife couldn't believe it. I actually did in some of our gardening. She's like, who are you? But yeah, I was dripping sweat. I was like, oh.
Yeah, and I felt like I'd done about 100 bicep curls. Yeah, amazing. And squat.
Yeah, no, I can see that. Now I need to tackle the front because we need to get this house ready because we're going to be moving out because we just bought a house. So we're just like, everything has to get ready. Exciting. So as we start to wrap this up, you've shared so much amazing stuff. What would kind of be your big kind of message to anyone listening, both as a professional speaker and as a human being? What would you like to say?
For me, it would be to climb your mountain. If you're going through a rough patch like we just spoke about, that might even be getting out of bed. But you know what? Getting out of bed just starts with a single step. Just maybe start with that. You know, whatever that real kind of hurdle and your mountain is, you can just go for it just by taking that first single step towards something that you can manage.
Absolutely. Was it a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step, right?
Exactly.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Thank you, Charlotte, for everything you do for the awards, for being a judge. I hope you'll be a judge for many years to come. Thank you to everybody listening to this. When you listen to this, remember Speaker Awards 2026 is now done. But if you do want to join us and you hear this before the 3rd of July, you could buy a ticket and come to the Speaker Awards or Speaker Summit. You can go to thespeakerawards.com or you could go to thespeakersummit.co and you can get yourself a ticket and join us for the day, because we would love to have you, meet you, host you and support you in your journey. My name is Elliot Kay and I want to thank you for tuning in. Until the next time, I will see you soon. Bye. Thank you for tuning in to this week's Front Row podcast. Remember to like, subscribe and comment. It's through your feedback that we grow. We hope you've taken lots of notes, benefited from the wisdom and are now going to turn everything into action. Remember to keep an eye out for our next episode of the Front Row podcast, and remember to like, subscribe and of course leave us a 5-star review. We look forward to connecting with you and hearing the progress of your journey in the professional speaking world. Tune in next time for the Front Row podcast.